Hello, and welcome to the Jaunty Mantis, a podcast of creative questions for curious gamers. I'm Jesse.
I'm Maddie.
And I'm Chris.
Tonight, we're going to discuss our recent experiences playing Mothership. What did we think of it? But before we do that, I have an order of business. Gents, we made it.
We made it.
We made it.
Yeah.
What did we make?
A studio reached out to us via email and asked if we would consider shouting them out. And they sent me a PDF of their Norse mythology inspired cyberpunk game. So Metamorphic Digital, they mostly make content for virtual tabletops, adapting other people's stuff. And as it turned out, when I went through their portfolio after reading the email, it was a bunch of stuff I've used, like Savage Rifts, that I'm like, oh, this is cool. They actually do great work. But I've got a chance to flip through Bad Blood. It is a one-shot adventure module in their Norse mythology-inspired D&D 5e Starfinder 2nd Edition or Savage Worlds compatible rule set. And I was like, Norse mythology? Cyberpunk? Two great tastes that taste great together. So shout out to them. Check it out. It's on DriveThruRPG and also available on Foundry.
Hey, there's 3 hosts on the show. We should actually play it.
Hey, good idea. I think we will.
Let's go.
And then also before we jump into Mothership, this one's hard for me. What have you guys been up to in RPGs lately?
Oh, wow. Chris, you go first.
Oh, that's easy. Very little. My monthly game got preempted and rescheduled for a second time because someone's been sick. Thank you so much for making my work from home people go back to the office to get sick, so they miss role-playing games. We didn't get to play Waterdeep Nights this last Tuesday because someone had a choir event, someone's child, and that derailed that whole thing.
Children are the worst.
With Valentine's Day, I've had people out, and I believe we're going to have people out this following Sunday. So I'm in a big gap, but I have been working on my Traveler Roll20 campaign, adding teleporters between pages, and that's almost as cool as playing sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. In my gaming week, I killed Jesse's character. We did it, guys.
5e characters can die. The secret weapon is gravity.
Yeah, I've tried for years to present a worthy challenge and kill a D&D 5e character. And it turns out all I had to do was give a ridiculous amount of perception checks for Jesse's character to fail on his way out to traversing a moss-covered slippery log where twig blights were waiting for the party. And the rest of the party decided to just hang back and fucking do it from range. And Jesse got stuck, taking the brunt of the twig blight attack, got reduced to 0 hit points, and then fell 40 feet and took 15 points of damage after hitting 0 as a first level character. And I
with 9 hit points.
I gave him the beneficiary of I said the first 10 feet's on me. I didn't roll 46. I only rolled 3d6 because I was like, this is just too mean. So I potentially pulled a punch because I like to give the first 10 feet if you're falling off something in my game. Because you're a hero, goddammit. I want you to survive.
Well, Ducky's a dead hero now.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that he just had a really critically important scene with an NPC who told him to get over his loss of his grandmother, which then inspired Ducky to say, I'm going to defeat death. And Death was like, no.
No, sir. No, sir.
Not on my Christian Minecraft server. So you were killed by awakened plants that resemble woody shrubs.
That's right. Yeah, little mean twigs, little mean twig guys, like some animated Blair Witch bullshit stabbed me through the heart, and then I tumbled off a log, and and that was the end of one of my favorite characters I've ever played in Dungeons and Dragons. But I made a new character after Ducky died.
Mm-hmm. And, also a Dragonborn.
Yeah, Grucky.
It's my brother Grucky.
He's not related. He's not related to Ducky. He's Grucky Laughing Ember. It's just a common syllable combination. The names sound kind of similar in Grolix culture.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that happened. I hadn't thought to blame the whole party for hanging back the whole fight. Thank you, Maddie. Now I hadn't reached that stage of grief, but with your help, I'm there. Sunday
totally
night crew.
should.
Fuck you guys.
One of them's a paladin. One of them should have been the first one out on that log, not you.
He's like, I'm going to stand back throwing javelins. That log looks slippery.
This is one of my favorite things about D&D 5th edition is that like people are so fucking precious about their characters. And as we'll talk about in the Mothership session, I'm the kind of person where it's like, what are we here to do? We're here to have fun and tell a story, right? So if this is a horror movie, I want to do stupid horror movie shit. If I'm playing in a D&D game, I want to do stupid, heroic, adventurous shit. What's in that room? How do I get to that door? I want to fight that thing. Like, so that's just me.
The best part is I had a week of waiting for it because the combat paused. When Maddie's kid Vizago woke up. And so I knew I was at 3 hit points when the combat ended the session before on the log, surrounded by 2 active twig blights. And I was like, I'm going to die next session. I cannot take the withdraw action. There's a guy in the way. I'm just fucked. So I had a whole week of knowing I was going to die. And then I died. So I was prepared spiritually. I did cheer because we finally got a fifth edition character dead at that point. But
then Jesse, you didn't really write anything, so I guess we can go right into the topic, right?
That's probably better if I. No, I did, and I will spare the details other than to say that in last night's Vampire the Masquerade Galveston game, I was a demigod of pacing, and my player, like there was a whole exchange. I love the dice system in this game so much, the way it like informs the story.
How does it work?
Okay. So you roll a pool of dice, right? And 6s and higher are successes. The difficulty is the number of successes you need to meet the target. However, you have hunger die that replace some of your pool based on how hungry your vampire is. And the hunger die, the 6, 7, 8, and 9 are the normal success symbol. The 10 is a little ankh with 2 fangs hanging down. And the 1 is a skull with fangs. Okay. If a critical hit, no one at the table, people have trouble with this. And I'm explaining it in an audio format and a visual medium without a visual example. If you have what are effectively 10s on a 10-sided dice, if you roll a single 10, that just counts as a normal success. If you roll 2 10s, that's a critical success. So you get the 2 successes, 1 for each 10, and 2 additional. Each further pair of 10s counts as another critical success if it happens. But if you get a critical success because of the 10 on the hunger dice, you have what's called a messy critical, where you succeed because the beast within you makes you do something pretty clearly vampiric and horrible and way overkill most of the time. The other downside of that is that if you don't get enough successes to meet the difficulty and you roll a 1 on a hunger die, it's what's called a bestial failure, where I get to like say, a compulsion of the blood makes you move to try and dominate everyone around you until a condition is met, or try to feed on everyone around you, or each different vampire bloodline has their own compulsion. Anyway, one of my players was trying to cheer up another player who had just pretty horrifically murdered her husband. And he is assembling this amazing dice pool. It's like 11 dice. And I'm like, the difficulty on this is going to be like 2. He's got 11 dice. He's got 1 hunger. So only one of them is the red die with the symbol. And he rolls a messy crit. The hunger die is a 10. He has another 10. And so I'm like, oh, like, what is the consequence of that? So like, you are going to try and cheer her up, but you're going to wind up turning her to darkness. And so they start role playing the scene, and I'm just in there like a director. And then you see her take it the wrong way, but she's listening to you. So you just can't help yourself. And then he's like, blah, 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 like just responding to that. And I'm like, and you do this, blah, blah. It was like directing the scene with two incredible actors. And it was like one of the coolest experiences I've ever had at an RPG table.
Wow.
And that was one of like 4 amazing things that happened in that game.
Jeez.
That's awesome.
That's a hell of a humble brag, Jesse.
I mean, it was the dice. I was just responding to the dice, but like,
it's more than the dice. Come on. You can pat yourself on the back there.
Is the dice and 2 really great players.
You
I
also played a role, Jesse.
Later on, I did
a player.
Yeah. Yes.
According to Chris' last name, they are.
Yeah. Later on, I was cutting scenes back and forth. Every time the scene would reach a new peak of tension, I'd be like, cut. Then we'd go to another scene. It would rise to a peak of tension, cut back. And I like 2 storylines, like we're both heading to equally dramatic, crazy points. And I was like, this is so cool. So I love Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition.
Man, I need to take some notes. You have to show me how to do this because I have been becoming more and more depressed by watching the recordings of my games. Because I'm like, man, this is really slow and drawn out. And man, everyone's thanking me at the end of the game, but they kind of have to, right?
I know that feeling.
It's easier in Vampire though, because like
it's also easier in person, I think.
Yeah, there's that. But in Vampire, like every character has a touchstone that's like their human that reminds them of their humanity. And I was like, a lot of what happened last night was playing out or the consequence of touchstone scenes where you need to talk to this person. And so they all know that at any moment the dice can give them a bestial failure or a messy critical. So anytime they do anything that lets me call for a die roll when talking to that person that's very important to them, like the dramatic tension just goes up a notch. And like I think last night is a session where we all just kind of leaned into it. And nice. It's harder to do that in D&D. Not that you can't, but there's not like a mechanical system driving you to, drive a car on fire off of a cliff with your character's narrative arc in D&D.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a lot easier in like a powered by the apocalypse system. Like in Dungeon World, it is so easy once a success with a consequence comes up to be like, the game has provided me with an opportunity to make this spicy, to make this more interesting. And then you just have to think on your feet and do it. Whereas with D&D's like failure success system, I mean, how would you even do that in D&D? Like I've got fucking
2
DCs.
pro gamer tips.
Let's hear it.
If they roll a 1, have them succeed, but at a terrible cost, or offer them the deal to succeed at a cost.
Okay.
Likewise, any low roll that doesn't quite make it, you can offer them a deal or have them succeed, but just barely. You basically have to take all of those mechanics and account for the difference in dice mechanics, right? You don't have a specific die, but you have that 1d20, and it might be success or failure, but it can be so much more if you just squint a little. The other one is the other tip is if you're listening to or watching your recordings and they seem slow, just do what I do and listen to them at 1.5 or 2x speed. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that because otherwise I'm ASMRing myself to death here. But for the first thing, I would have thought, because I like your solution way better than the one that came to mind for me, which was like, okay, so anything less than the DC is an automatic failure, as we know. And then the DC plus 4 is a success with a consequence. And then a DC with 5 or higher is just a straight success as we understand it. I don't know if I'm doing math correctly. It's not my strong suit, despite getting into a hobby that involves it. But I figured that's the way to go. And then you just have like if they get this DC, then it's this, but like your solution is so much more simple and elegant to just be like, well, there's a 1 there for a reason. And everybody's like, oh, critical failure, So I love
offering them devilish deals as well. Like, oh, yeah,
like what?
Totally
Give me
succeed.
an example.
Okay. What's our scenario? What's something that happened in your last game that
the NPC, they have been kind of like pushing him around,
Mhm.
and I've been making rolls for like no, it's a dumb example. Okay, here's an easy one. They are trying to make their way through a part of the forest, and they all rolled terrible on their perception checks, and there's a bunch of snares set up. And so I was like, oh, by the way, John, roll a dexterity saving throw. You've been caught in a snare, and here's what happens. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it would have, like, had he failed the roll and the snare went off, but if he had, like, under this system, how would that
Succeeded.
have worked? Yeah, like,
So if his perception check almost saw it, I'm no matter the result on a failure, I would like to, in my best self, say something. But if he just barely missed it, maybe. So you're just about to set your foot into a snare. You notice it at the last second. To avoid this damage, you can drop an item.
mhm.
You can stumble into one of your compatriots, or you can step in what looks like some foul-smelling liquid. Or sometimes I'll offer a deal where, like, you will succeed on this, but at a cost. What do you think that cost should be? And whenever I offer them the question and they get to answer it, they universally pick something worse than I would have picked. Like if it's like,
Of course.
okay, you get stuck in the snare, you fall, or you lose an item, and I let them pick the item, it'll be like a magic item. I would have been like, hey, it could have been your canteen. It could have been like one ration. Like I would have accepted any negative consequence because you technically failed that roll for you to avoid, the total, like, especially if it's a non-plot progressing failure. Like,
Right.
we can't have those. We got places.
I mean, if they drop an item, why can't they just pick it back up? Is
Well,
it
into
dropped
a
and it's
hole
gone,
or-
or
They drop and they don't
probably.
notice it until they need it later.
okay?
It's
I like
lost
it.
forever in the leaves. I lost one of the bits from my screwdriver the other day. I was very sad.
Oh man. I have something I could take away from them very easily because I've been using I've been bastardizing the cipher system into D&D by offering these spell shards that they find that have, I roll randomly on a table and it's basically a one use, like a scroll, but it's the least powerful version of the spell. So if they were to get a spell shard of haste, it lasts one turn and affects one person with none of the drawbacks of haste. Like they're not lethargic, so it's like
No
you only get it for a
withdrawals.
brief moment. And it's the one thing I think I'm going to take out. But if I could take them away with like this kind of stuff, it's like, oh, and then your spell shard cracks in your pocket. The it turns into a dust and then like evaporates or something like that. You know what I mean?
I don't like to be too punitive. If they offer up something with actual game mechanics, like that's on them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But you got to be careful, I think, about taking away magic items or anything with a bonus on it. People sometimes take that kind of personal. But I was gonna say in combat, like I don't know if you guys experience this as players in D&D, but when it finally gets around to your turn and you're playing like a melee character with a single attack at lower levels and you miss, and then it's like 25, 30 minutes till your next turn, it's the worst.
Yeah.
But
Well, you're just being really considerate by not having your turn take as long as
Yeah.
all these other fucks.
sadly, that's often how I feel, but especially in playing Commander and Magic. But I'll let people hit, like I'll let you hit, but you in the exchange you're gonna have to expose yourself, and you're also gonna take some damage. They get to roll damage against you, or maybe take an attack, or maybe if it's a more dramatic moment in that combat, like I'll let that hit, but you will take the damage too. Or sometimes I've even been like, I will let this attack hit and crit, but you also take the damage, or you get an automatic hit on you, or something like that. Just to make everybody's turn interesting. I hate the way those nothing burger turns go, and I love avoiding them if I can.
Well, let me take this opportunity that Jesse, have I solved that with phase combat
No.
in our D&D? Okay. Because I think that might be the other thing that goes as well. I don't know. I don't know if phase combat is working. But that's another episode for another time.
But the episode, like sometimes too, your system or like the themes of the game you're playing, like set up those stakes and devil's bargains for you immediately to create the narrative tension. I don't know why I don't feel that D&D does that, but you know what game does do that? Mothership.
Oh, it's a good game. I've heard.
Wow.
It was a good segue. Actually, just going to pat myself on the back.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, are you guys ready to talk about Mothership a little bit?
Indubitably.
Okay. Before we jump into it, full disclosure, that was my third game as a player in Mothership. I had played twice before. Both of my previous games before Rich had been run by Kurt, my brother-in-law from the Sunday Night Group. Chris, had you played Mothership before?
I had not, and I skimmed their free rules, basic rules, very briefly before we started.
Okay.
I have played it before, but didn't realize it until our second session, where I was like, why does this seem so familiar? Because Kurt did run it for us. I was in one of those games that you played in. But I just didn't remember that was Mothership. And then it didn't occur to me until much later in our game.
Yeah, because that Mothership game was like at the end of 2 days of solid gaming, and we had been drinking with dinner, and it was like 10:30 at night when we started, and we were playing in the dark. So
by choice.
Yeah, I think that's the only RPG I've ever fallen asleep during. And it was nothing to do with Kurt running the game. It was like literally just like, it's a late.
You were also sitting like in a relaxed laying down position.
Yes.
So like anybody with that much food and drink with them would have fallen asleep.
But I'm not blaming Mothership for that, or the guy running the game. The game warden, as it's called in Mothership.
Oh.
I know, because right here I have my warden's containment manual, because I have a whole bunch of Mothership stuff. Surprise, surprise.
Very nice. Rich did a great job. That's my first takeaway.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that adventure. That was really fun. I was expecting the consequences to be a lot harsher, is my only like mild critique. Mm-hmm. There was a scene at the end where like I started losing my shit, and I had secured a gun from the arms locker, and I like fired at the vampires, fully expecting that to egg them on into ending my character right there, and it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, okay. The first thing I want to talk about is the digital tools, because I just thought they were really cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah, super. Like, once we kind of poked our way around a little bit, which didn't take long. They were super straightforward and clean lines, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely had a solid art direction, aesthetic vibe.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the ease of character creation. Like anything where you can click a button and you got a character is pretty all right by me.
Yeah, that was super fast.
Yeah, and everything was kind of, everything was really randomized. Like my pronouns got rolled. And I was like, looks like I'm she, her. So here we go.
I didn't realize that was why that choice was made. That's hilarious.
Yeah. But I liked it. Like Rich had said, like when we started playing, that it's like some of the best digital tools out there. And I completely agree with that, because if you know what your product is and you make the cleanest, most effective version of it, I think that rivals any super complex virtual tabletop or digital system out there. Like, I don't like using Roll20 because I think they need a very simple, bare bones, basic version of it, because I don't want to like use Fog of War and have hidden items everywhere and like all this stuff. And I don't want to spend hours watching YouTube videos to figure it out. And I feel like with the Mothership digital tools, I could intuitively just figure out how to use it on my own. Maybe watch a YouTube video or two just to brush up on something. But it's like, I feel like if you make a simple product that's easy to use, like you're killing it.
Yeah. That's the problem with a universal system is I've been supporting Roll20 for over a decade, and I love it. I've learned to use many aspects of it, but it can do so much more for anything, and that makes it a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes with like a really complex virtual tabletop system, because I fall into this too, is like it's like there's the element that Chris has talked about before of the sunk cost fallacy of like, I've bought so much stuff for this game, I don't want to lose it all. But also you're like, well, I know it's an option to automate all these things. But the more you try to automate things, the more technical knowledge you need. And like to really, really have that be a seamless experience on the player side, it takes like you kind of got to start getting into like a little bit of programming and stuff. And it's not easy. I also enjoy doing that and setting that up. And I think we got to a pretty good position in our Soulbound game, which we played on Foundry, but that took me hours of behind the scene and making a map in Mothership with their like native digital tool set, which is web based, works on a phone, works on a tablet. Like I bet you could do that in like 10 minutes. And then you have a functional map because it's not a tactical map. It's like, here's a map of the adventure site. Let's go. So yeah, really hats off to their native digital tool set on Mothership.
Yeah. I completely agree. You know, for D&D Beyond, the 5th edition map tool, you know, it's like it's pretty easy to use. Like I wanted to make like a ravine and I didn't have any mud I didn't want to search through the maps looking for a ravine, and I just took like bearskin rugs and made them into like mud on the screen, and I was like, that's easy, and I made it and I'm good. And, you know, let's continue. It didn't take very long for me to set that up.
We had no idea it was bearskins too until he had forgotten to lock the layers and one of us accidentally grabbed the mud and dragged a bearskin out of it, which was a moment of hilarity.
Yeah, but like, spoilers, you're fighting on a giant bear.
I have to tell you, Matt, I felt like such a sucker for the amount of time I spend searching for a perfect map. It never occurred to me to just use the colors of the shapes in there to just draw it. And you're like, I made this map. And I'm like, well, you just stuck trees and bears and doors for the logs on like the grass field. That's brilliant. So hats off to you for that.
All the hats to you, Jesse. It
making
really
that place where I died, you son of a bitch.
It really comes from our early days in the early 2000s playing 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons with a tag map. And I never remember whether they're wet erase or dry erase, but like just drawing it on the fucking map.
Neither can we, which is why we've ruined so many of them.
I have ruined at least one.
like I guess that's I'm old school, I guess, in that sense, where it's like, just give me a grid and let me draw on there and I'm fine. Like it's a game of fucking imagination.
Cool.
How about that Mothership? The rolling low for success works well in there. And maybe fits the theme too, but every time my brain's like, ooh, I rolled high. And I failed, I think, every roll I attempted in that game, which was great. Loved it. But seeing those high numbers throws me off. I think as a rule, I'd rather high numbers be success. But it made sense in that game, and I certainly wasn't mad about it, but always confuses me.
I really liked, and I'm sadly not conversant enough with Mothership to know if this is rules as written or some advice from a book that I just pulled out for reference, because I've said this before on the podcast and I still agree. The Warden's Operation Manual for Mothership is like the single best instruction manual for running an RPG that I have ever read. Just the way it's broken, like the way it breaks down the advice. They're just like social scenes, like how much information to give them, when to call for a dice roll. And then the like campaign arc has an acronym called TOMBS that I was trying to look up to like, they're like, this is how you run a horror game. Use this TOMBS thing. And it's like threat, omen. I wish I could remember what the M is, but like, it's basically like, the horror thing you're going to see, or transgression, sorry. Someone transgresses in a way that awakens the unspeakable horror. There is an omen of its coming. There is, maybe M is murder. You battle it and then it sleeps. Like that's the arc of the horror game. Somebody does something that makes the bad thing come. You see signs that the bad thing is around. The bad thing shows up. You battle against the bad thing, and then it goes back to sleep until another cycle starts. And I'm like,
very Cabin in the Woods.
yeah. And it's a horror game, so it's supposed to do that. It's supposed to have that feel. And like, I love it. So I can't remember, to get back to my original point, I can't remember if this was the thing that's in a specific part of the Warden's operation manual, but knowing that it was a horror game and knowing that there were these creepy things on the ship, the way Rich used time with everything we were going to interact with, he's like, oh yeah, you were just going to be able to hack this computer in 3 hours. You can have that time with a roll or do it instantaneously on a crit. Like, clearly delineated consequences. Time mattered to me as a player in that game, like, more than I feel like it does in most other games I played. I'm like, oh shit. Like, because I don't want my character in the fiction to be tinkering with this computer that I think I'm not supposed to be for 5 hours, because that risk of exposure and then the worst consequences just keeps going up. So I thought that was really great.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think would have happened to our player characters if you had to have taken 3 or 5 hours to hack the computer system? Like, as somebody who has read the manuals for Mothership and has played in more games than me, what do you think would have happened?
I think something creepy would have showed up. like I think it would have been, we were beyond the omen at that part. And I think the moment the red eyes hit Chris's character, it was like, okay, and that's the omen. So now we are into
I'm glad you mentioned that. Here's my biggest complaint. I was drinking a Bloody Mary during that second session. And I just wanted someone to comment on it, so I could not say the first word. Anyways, I pulled up the tomb cycle. It is transgressions, omens, manifestation, banishment, and slumber.
Yeah, there.
And I think if old Cal Umami had focused on fixing those shutters and revealed the non-red stars, or if Galen had hacked the computers, or maybe if Dick Darrington had actually hit something, if any of us had hit anything with our projectiles, we might have hit the Act 4 banishment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it possible to win a Mothership game, or not like win, but come out with a favorable scenario? Because the 2 times I've played it, it's been like, oh no, you're fucked. The ending is you're fucked.
We were playing one shots both of the times that we've played it, which has a very different, like, there are full on campaign rules where life is hard and it's scary, but like, no, there's actually, like, there was a big Dying Hard on Hardlight Station is like this big campaign hub thing that came out a couple months ago when they had Mothership Week on Kickstarter, or Mothership Month on Kickstarter, where they had all these linked like Mothership projects. And so like it's pretty fleshed out. Like, you can do a campaign. And it's the same thing with the Alien RPG, where like, if you're doing a campaign of the Alien RPG, every adventure does not involve a xenomorph, because then you all die.
Because then you're Ellen Ripley and you're living the worst possible life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just want to take a moment to describe the illustrations above each of these categories in the Warden's operation manual. First picture, someone has a petri dish and they're capturing a worm on an alien world. Second picture, above the heading transgression, a scientist at a lab holds the now larger worm in a pair of tongs and it spits something in his face. Third picture, Act 2, Omens. The scientist is shirtless and touching weird protuberant spikes that seem to be growing from their neck. Act 3, Manifestation. The scientist is now no longer human and has a recognizable human face that's shrieking, an elongated torso, and all these spidery limbs coming from it. Act 4, Banishment. Someone has a flamethrower and is burning something. Act 5, Slumber. A skull with an eyeball in it from which a worm is crawling.
Okay.
So good.
Very
so
effective.
Illustrative. Yes. Each part. This illustration, tactical considerations. Taken Hold, High Ground. Like, it's just got great game wardening advice.
I'm I'm really struggling to picture this as a campaign style game. You know, we failed so much. You know, and I don't remember if that happened in the first Mothership game I played in.
We didn't roll a lot in the first Mothership
Yeah,
game.
which I really appreciated both styles. Like I appreciated having the rolls and failing them because I like it when I fail rolls. It makes it more interesting for me, unless it's D&D 5e combat. But to Chris's earlier point, but you know, in the context of like a game like this, I think failure makes the game more interesting. But I also appreciate just narrative flow for sure.
I think too, to answer that too, for the campaign mode, like this is an OSR inspired game. And so like part of the play loop in longer term campaigns is like going for every advantage and clever play. And if you're playing in a campaign mode, I think you need to have players who are like gunning for building every narrative advantage. And I'm not talking about like tapping the floor with a 10-foot pole. I see Chris shaking his head over there.
I never at any point wanted to do any of the things that were advantageous for my character.
Well, because we were playing a one-shot horror game.
Yeah.
We knew that when it was over for these characters. So we were trying to, and I think very successfully, ride them out in a blaze of blood and destruction. And not trying to do optimal play. But I think like that's a session zero discussion if you're running a campaign of Mothership of like, hey, there are strong horror elements in this game. So you need to play smart.
Mm-hmm.
Or just play a new character every session, you know?
Yeah, that's
you
also
lost a
works
guy
too.
in the last mission. You're the newbie.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it's a sci-fi game and if there's other people on your ship, other crew that can be, I think that's what the support structure was for the game that Kurt ran, where if your character died, somebody else from the crew on your original ship could just suddenly come in and be like, what are we doing? You know, and then pick up where you left off.
Yeah.
To a certain point, I think there was a certain point you crossed over where it was like, after this point, everything's fucked. And I think it's when the doors close on all the parts of the space station in that particular game.
Yeah. But again, that was also one shot written to be a one shot.
For sure. For sure. So was the banishment or the sleeping part, was that when the Draculas had fed and then they were like, you guys can stay if you want? Because
no, we didn't succeed in banishment. Like we ran the fuck away. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like, was that phase of it, or was that the after? That was the after the banishment.
I mean, like I don't know that Rich was doing tombs one for one.
Okay.
But like as advice, like use this model to plot your story arc for a horror game. I'm like, that's just simple, understandable, and like straight to the point. So like, and that's my greater point. Like I don't think you have to do tombs for Mothership. I don't even like, I know it's sci-fi horror, but I think it's more horror than sci-fi. Sci-fi is the set dressing. This is not a game about science. This is generally a game. I think it's generally a game about how capitalism is bad. Like,
yeah, megacorps.
You're always a space trucker, like getting sent into some horrible, terrible, perilous thing.
Oh, really? You're always a space trucker?
You're pretty much always some variation of space trucker. Yeah.
Interesting.
With the android and the site and the, you know, the roughneck and like, yeah, like you are always working people or property in the case of an android. So, and you're usually doing a mission to stay afloat, working for these big corps that are sending you to places where these big corps have committed the transgression that releases the horrible thing.
Chris, last name, is your oppositional ringtone going off? Would you consider running a Mothership game where the player characters are not space truckers?
I mean, from what I've seen, there's 4 classes, right? There was like a military, there was the Union Man, blue collar guy, the android. There's one other one, maybe, right? We didn't actually play
There's
it.
the Teamster, the Marine, the android, and then there was like the I thought
Company rep.
the suit, like
yeah,
the
suit.
corporate guy, right?
No, I mean, I
The
think
Paul Reiser of it all.
Yeah.
if you're gonna play Mothership, I would just go with that. Like, why not? Now, if you want to, I mean, I would take this Tomb Cycle and apply it for a single D&D session or any other game. Like, it's a great, as Jesse said, it's a great way to break down the horror format,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
That's a
I
good
mean, I
point.
would just stick to what they wrote. I mean, unless I had some specific idea that came to my mind, and then hack it as much as you feel like.
I mean, like, I'm using tombs in the vampire game with this whole like subplot line about these dolls with like decaying human hearts sewed in their chest.
Ugh.
Like, the transgression was they went to go look for them after learning they exist. And then the omen was a camera shot that revealed there's one hidden somewhere in the house they live. And they're going to bring them all together, and then there'll be the manifestation. And then I hope they're successful in the banishment, which will just lead to its sleeping, not its destruction, just its sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So
The
yeah,
doll always comes back.
Yeah.
we didn't flesh out the combat system. There's a lot of other subsystems that are in the player's survival guide, such as like spaceship combat and like a full-on combat system, hiring mercenaries, which is a very OSR touch, hiring scum, I think it's called, the section is called. So there's a lot more pieces of the kit that we didn't get to experience that I wouldn't mind experiencing and playing again. So I just wish I had some content to make it easy to run a game. Oh, wait.
Yeah, we should do that. I'll tell you, I was ready from a narrative standpoint for my character to die at any point once the manifestation happened. Once they were flying on us, all vamped out and stuff, and we revealed the Elder Dracula or whatever he was. Like, I'm like, cool. This is probably the end. This will be great. But then having it drug out just a little further to the real rough down ending we got was also pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was, go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
No. You go ahead.
I was just really happy because like Rich had mentioned the idea of like you made friends with the computer, and I'm like, they were deep in my head. Like they were like really deep in my head. So I don't know if Rich picked it up because it was like the end of the session and I didn't. But like the whole thing that I was trying to describe of like, I stay awake the 5 months that you guys are in the goo, like just typing up my report on the mission. And I think I'm typing up a report that hides this thing so no one will go looking for it. Like, the ship was destroyed, it's useless, there's nothing. But I was actually typing the full report that, of course, the corporation is going to send someone else to go after.
I'm pretty sure when he embodied Stephen Quain, the suit at the end, he was commenting in a way that suggested the report contradicted what you were saying out loud in character.
Yeah.
It was a nice touch.
So, I think that's the thing. Another thing that made this, I'm just going to shout both of you guys out because you guys were great players for a horror game. You're just like, I'm going to make the dumb choice to find out what happens because it's interesting to fuck around and find out.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, when a friend of mine writes a really cool game and there's lots of cool stuff to go look at and do, like, I want to go do all the things. Like, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I don't want to be precious about my character. I want to go do stuff. I want to go see what's in the fucking greenhouse. You know what I mean?
The way that you like in character mumbling to yourself justified that, like in character, I was like, that's so fucking good. You're like, we gotta find out what's going on. We gotta find out. I'm gonna go in the greenhouse. We have to know what's going on. I'm like,
that was a great moment.
Cool. I would have liked us to have failed more panic checks just to see more conditions pile up.
I mean, I feel like I failed a lot of checks.
Failed a lot of saving throws, but I think we only had one panic check fail. And that's the thing that gives you the conditions. Like, I think you had the one that like you have disadvantage in any combat situation for the next like some 2d6 hours because you're a coward now. Why would you be a coward? Because a giant man bat thing brushed past you in a darkened, reeking like greenhouse in the middle of the lightless void of space. Why would that make you afraid?
I'm usually running games, so it's nice to be a player, and it's nice to be a player with two experienced co-players.
Oh,
I know Jesse's. I've volunteered to be the salt in some games. Jesse's ran for new players at his place, and that was cool. But the whole time I'm like, worried I'm being too much or, not contributing like one extreme or the other. So I was overthinking it a lot. But this one, it's like everybody knows what they're doing. We got someone who knows their adventure inside out, doing an excellent job of portraying it. And you guys were great the whole time. I mean, no complaints anywhere. Ran had a blast.
yeah. You guys did a great job. I loved both of your characters. And, that's really my only problem with one shots like that is like, I want time to get into it. You know what I mean? And I just want to keep going. But in the back of my head, like Chris, you said, you're always ready. After a certain point, you're always ready for your character to die. And Jesse, you're at this point where it's like, you're going to finish out the end of the intent of this game. Like there's no win scenario for these characters. The worst thing happens, and you're prepared to inject that back into the story after the baton has kind of been passed to you by the game warden. And so it's like that. I think that's my only issue with these like Death Spiral or one shot style games like Mothership or what Trophy. It's like I kind of just it's not like giving up, but it's just like it's knowing that things aren't going to go your way. And when I really start to get into everybody's character, I really love the voice that Jesse's doing, and I love his interactions, and I love the fact that Chris left his tool bag in the other room and is like has the laser torch and is just like, I'm gonna try to seal up this room. Do you see the way he was looking at me? And it's just like I just want to spend more time with these characters. And I know, and then comes this like FOMO part in my brain where it's like I know this is gonna end, and I just kind of want to like play a fun game with my friends, and I don't want it to end. Like I know it has to, but
I think the power in a horror game is getting to do the eulogy at the end, getting to do the sort of, we did that when we played Trophy Dark, and I think we did that a little bit with Mothership. I get what you're saying, but I'm fine because then I just get to have the fun of making a new character,
Yeah.
I will say though, my favorite moment in character was how plaintive my voice was when like at the end they're like, and we'll keep you here, and I was just like, I am a person. Like you can't do that. I'm a person. And they're like, well, yeah, whatever. So yeah, such a great time. Rich wrote a really great game. So keep an eye out for Redshift in the near future, possibly on BackerKit or Kickstarter. We'll let you know when we hear where he's doing crowdfunding if it gets there. Do you guys have any other final thoughts? I have one last kind of wrap-up question, but I don't have to rush there if you guys have something else you want to say. Okay, it's question in two parts. Chris, do you think there's a future where you're running a game of Mothership?
Definitely. It's on my to-do list now.
Okay.
Would that be a one-shot or a campaign?
That's an excellent question. I'd be open to either, but it really... my experience and what little I know seems to make one shot seem like the way. But as soon as Jesse talked about some of the systems we didn't explore, ship combat and stuff like that, I thought of the recent Aliens television show, and they were flashing back to what happened to incite the events of the show. And I'm like, okay, I could see that. We could do that.
Every time your ship takes a critical hit, you make a panic check in Mothership, by the way. That's a fun thing. Just like, oh God. Maddie, is there a future where you're running a game of Mothership?
Potentially, yes. I think that Mothership is a game I would much rather play in than run. I think the exception to that would be that I'm always on the lookout for games that I can throw at non-gamers. When we're with the in-laws and we're going to Michigan and we're not going to sit down and watch TV. And I'm always like, I always bring a game with me, pre-made D&D characters, just in case somebody's just like, this is why I want to get Jesse's advice on how to get non-gamers to try role-playing games. And I feel like something like Mothership would be perfect if
Yeah,
people are into sci-fi horror.
Your speech is like, what do you do in this game? Have you seen Alien?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I don't know if it would work exactly on the people that I'm thinking of, but I would be way more likely to try Mothership than really anything else. Maybe Trophy Dark on top of that as well. But like, the non, what do we call them? The non-gamers, the civilians or whatever. The people who aren't as weird as us gamers, they're like their tolerance. Yeah, the normies. Thank you. Their tolerance level for shenanigans and fantasy and sci-fi is very small. So, I'm heartened by the possibility of playing Mothership like that, running a Mothership game. But I don't know if I would do anything outside of that, and I'm not exactly sure why.
Okay.
Hull Breach.
26 brand new third-party supplements in an anthology.
Ooh.
And then the delightful, this ship is a tomb.
Perfect.
Are only 2 of the hardbound Mothership things I have. So there's a future where I'm running Mothership, and there's a future where I'm playing Mothership. And in fact, one of my players in my in-person groups has specifically asked me to run a Mothership game. So
based on what? That's intriguing.
Oh, Selena played in that giant battle royale like PUBG Mothership game at Gen Con.
Oh, what? That's awesome.
Yeah, and got hooked and was like,
okay, remind us again what that was.
So they ran a Mothership game where there were like these 5-person teams, and like I don't know if there were actually 100. I think maybe like 35 or whatever was a space, but each table had their own game warden. And they were basically communicating with each other, and like the space station was losing oxygen in the outer levels, forcing them in closer and closer and closer to each other. And it was a battle royale, last person standing, which, as she was telling me about that, it reminded me of when we ran that Farscape RPG, like in 2 different rooms of the house, like texting on our little Nokia phones.
That's right.
Like for updates, because I don't think I had a desktop, not a laptop. And so like awesome. one group was the peacekeepers and one was the prisoners on the
Leviathan prisoner
ship. Yeah.
So man, I would love to run another Farscape game. Maybe that's how the Cypher system game happens.
Ooh.
Because Farscape would be super easy to run in Mothership. Do you think that could be a thing?
I think it could be a thing.
What is the practical application beyond because Farscape does have dark and sometimes horror elements with the alien component to it.
Yeah.
How far away from the core concept of, and there is a space trucker element to Farscape actually. How far from that core concept can you get with Mothership? Because this would change everything for me as far as running it.
I think as far as your creativity allows you is my cop-out answer. No, I mean, like, again, like Tombs is just advice. You want to run a horror story. Here's a great model to help you think about how to parse up, the action of it. There's rules for combat. There's rules for skills. You don't necessarily have to do horror. I mean, there is a huge portion of the game, like most OSR games, or this is weird to say, like most modern OSR games, a huge component of it, the game, is resisting the consequences of the actions. And that's why most of the rolls we did were saving throws, even though there's only 4 types of saving throws. So, like, if you remember that the mechanical engine of the game as written is driving you to like deal with consequences and then try to resist them. Like if that works with the narrative style of your Farscape, I don't think it necessarily has to be utterly horrific.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be a fairly easy swap.
Yeah. Well, then maybe I'm not going to change my answer. Maybe I'll run a Farscape series of Mothership games if that's
I never
possible.
watched Farscape, so I just dismissed myself during that part. But I've heard.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it's. I don't think that's a whole other episode.
One of my favorite Farscape related stories is I was once at the Games Workshop Battle Bunker in suburban Chicago, buying some Chaos Obliterators, I think. And
I just got redone.
I had just checked out, and there was a mom and her teenage son who were checking out. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we got to get home and watch Stargate. We watch it every week." And I turned, because I think I had recently rewatched Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and just went, "You bastards killed Farscape!" And then I ran out of the store and like slid across the hood of my car and jumped in and drove
Wow.
away.
That poor kid.
I hope he thought it was funny. I thought it was funny.
I hope it ruined the rest of his life.
He never played Warhammer again. And that's why I've been making up my debt to Games Workshop by getting people into their games. Well, cool. Gents, I really enjoyed our conversation tonight. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I enjoy all of our conversations. So up yours, Jesse.
Well, this conversation is the one that has just happened, and you know how I experience time. So
True.
Until next time,
Generally?
Yeah, we have a hive mind thing going on.
I just want to thank Rich for running the game. It was really fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I echo that particular sentiment as well.
Okay. Well, until next time, we've been the Jaunty Mantis. If you like what you heard, it helps us if you like, comment, or subscribe on the YouTube video, or leave us a review, or like us if your podcast app of choice enables you to do those things. And if you want to reach out to us, you can reach us at jauntymantis@gmail.com. We're Jaunty Mantis on Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram. So until next time, commit some sort of transgression.
Fail all your rolls.
And have a great rest of your weekend.